Hi, my name is Arjun and welcome to Energize, the Tech Revolution. Today we have a very special guest amongst us. Mike Donohue, after completing a computer science degree at St. Francis Xavier University, started in software as a solution consultant in the financial software industry in Toronto. He moved to Calgary to pursue an MBA at the University of Calgary and fell in love with the mountains. He's still here 16 years later. After the MBA, he had a brief stint in educational software, then moved into the oil and gas industry as a solution consultant with a small software company here in Calgary in the corporate planning space. Over the last 10 years, he has had a variety of roles from business analyst lead to senior solution consultant on different products ranging from portfolio analysis, corporate planning, reserves management, and now as a product owner on the field development planning tool ENERGIZE. Welcome to the show, Mike.
Thanks, Arjun. Happy to be here.
Yeah, great, Mike. Your professional journey is fascinating. You've worked in three different industries. You worked in finance, education, and then oil and gas. Could you share what excited you about these specific industries and what were the differences you noticed while working between these three industries?
Yeah, it is quite a path, right? Not three related industries by any stretch. My first job in Toronto in the finance kind of software consulting industry was sort of by chance. I just applied to that. I was looking for a job, and that looked like a great little company, and it turned out to be really interesting. I didn't have much business background at the time. I did a pure computer science degree. So in that role, I learned a lot about, businesses and accounting and financial statements and all that good stuff. And then I jumped at the chance to come out to Calgary and do an MBA to learn more about that because I saw the value in that area. And after the MBA, again, I kind of fell into a job running a small development team at an online education software company. We provided questions and quizzes and stuff to go along with some publishers' textbooks. So it was pretty interesting. Much slower pace than both oil and gas and the finance industry, like much slower. So then I jumped into oil and gas, just wanted to change, and I've been here for 10 plus years now, and it's a super interesting industry. Like there are so many problems that smart people are solving every day, and there's always something new to learn. So I think that's what's kept me around in the oil and gas industry. There's just so much going on, so many acronyms to learn, learn a new one every day.
That's great to hear, Mike, and I'm glad you're enjoying working in the oil and gas space. Now, you have an educational degree in computer science supplement with an MBA. After your computer science degree, what made you choose going towards the business analyst and product owner route rather than becoming, let's say, a software developer?
I realized fairly early on during my degree that I don't have the patience to be like a straight up programmer coder. I really like it and I still do it in my spare time for like fun projects, but I find it really frustrating at times. Coding and golf are the two things that can frustrate me to no end. Again, they're both a lot of fun, but can be, yeah, immensely frustrating. So that's why I moved into more like a sort of a business mixed with a little bit of coding type role. That was my first role. I still did a bit of coding and like VBA and Visual Studio Code and that kind of stuff. But yeah, straight up sitting at a desk coding all day long, it just wasn't for me.
Well, thanks for sharing that, Mike. Now, for the benefit of our viewers and listeners, could you share what is the distinction between the role of a business analyst and the role of a product owner in the oil and gas tech space?
Yeah, for sure. I worked as a BA business analyst for a few different products. It was at the same company, but I'll give you a little bit of background. I started at a smallish company in Calgary. We got acquired once, and then we got acquired again. So I bounced around between consulting, solutions consulting, implementations, basically, and various business analyst roles. And in pretty much all of the BA roles, it was more you work closely with the dev team, but it's mostly requirements gathering and translation from the business reps and the product managers when we have one to requirements for developers. So it's less client facing and market facing than a product owner role. Product owner is more of a leadership role. It's not quite a full on product manager. Like the lines are blurred for sure between a product manager and product owner. Depends on the company, of course, but um, Yeah, more leadership role, more figuring out exactly what should be built, and combined with all the BA stuff, it's like BA plus. You're still defining all those requirements and uh, gathering them and defining what should be built, working with the developers and coming up with the best solutions for clients and potential new markets.
Thank you. Thank you so much for sharing that, Mike. I'm sure it will be very useful to our viewers and listeners. Now, let's steer our conversation towards Quorum Software, the organization that you're currently working in. Could you share more about the type of products that Quorum Software is currently building? Who are their customers? Is it subsurface products, surface products? Is it focused on upstream, midstream, downstream? And what specifically, are the products that you're working on and the stakeholders that you're interacting with?
All right, it's a fairly loaded question. Quorum has, I'm not sure if you've looked us up, but we have a ton of products. We have everything from subsurface simulators to wellhead data collectors to enterprise accounting, corporate planning, resource management, all that stuff. So literally almost anything an oil and gas company, upstream, midstream, a little bit of downstream, could want. Quorum has some kind of solution for it. And the reason for that is, as I said, I started at a smaller company that was acquired. Quorum was the second company that acquired us, and they've gone around and acquired a bunch of small companies to create kind of a synergistic solution, to use a buzzword, synergy. But it really is like you have data coming from all different areas of your company, and it all ties together in a nice way to varying levels of success using Quorum's products. In any case, I started in corporate planning, which is like, rolling up all the results from your engineers and accountants and everybody to create the budget and figure out where you're going to invest capital and how you're going to meet your targets. But now I'm in EnerGize is a field development planning tool. It's also used for some economics and creating budgets and stuff, but it's really optimizing your field development. So in areas like the Permian where you're drilling all kinds of wells, figuring out which wells you should drill to maximize your facility capacities, or where you're going to hit facility constraints, when you should build a new facility. Um, yeah, so that's EnerSite basically. Oh, I also spent a bit of time in portfolio analysis. We had a tool called, it was Palantir and then Acerna Portfolio, which is pretty neat because it's sort of um, it can be part of corporate planning, but it's taking sort of portfolio options like investment options and running them through some software to do optimization to figure out which blend of solutions will give you the best whatever NPV or keep you at like a maximum capital spend while maximizing production per day kind of thing. It's pretty neat. It's tough to get your data organized in a big company such that you can use a tool like that effectively. But when you have all the data and all the right inputs at the right quality level, like it's really really powerful. It's neat.
That's very exciting, and thanks for sharing that, Mike. So now in this product development journey, what have been some of the challenges that you have experienced, and what is the incorporation of artificial intelligence in the products?
Yeah, good question. AI is all the buzz nowadays, hey? In terms of challenges, probably the biggest one that I've seen throughout my career has been the prevalence and the love of spreadsheets. We've replaced a lot of big complex spreadsheet models, and getting that one engineer to, just release his hold on that beloved spreadsheet model that he's used for 10, 15 years, that probably has errors in it. I mean, no matter how good you are, Excel is or can be a little bit error prone. Uh, so yeah, overcoming, and I guess the bigger point there is that there's like organizational inertia. Change is hard. Getting an organization to change at a micro or macro level is challenging. So bigger companies, having them adopt a big like enterprise piece of software is challenging. And when you get into a process like that, like introducing a big piece of corporate planning software or data management, whatever, figuring out all of the workflows that you need to capture and replicate or improve or eliminate during that implementation, that's a big challenge too. On the product development side, like now, there's such a wide variety of the way companies do things in terms of, well, everything, but field development planning and scheduling specifically, that it's hard to, it can be hard to come up with a solution that works for, well, it's impossible to come up with a solution that works for everybody, but figuring out what that, main use case is that will be useful to more than just one company or two big companies that's a challenge we deal with currently. Um, there's always something cool you can build, but you have to figure out what will solve the most problems for the most people, like what is the most effective use of your time and dollars. In terms of AI, we're dabbling in a whole bunch of things in AI. I haven't seen, personally at least, a ton of adoption in the oil and gas industry and the companies we work with. A little bit, but for us, we're starting to dabble in things like AI report generation, AI support, like AI chatbots, like, hey, chatbot, how do I do this? And it'll, scour our help documents and find the right thing for you. Because our help documents are like pretty huge. It's complex software. So having a little help bot help you with that is kind of our first foray into that. Experimenting with some cooler things that I can't really talk about too much because, they're competitive stuff. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see where AI goes in terms of like oil and gas planning software and technical forecasting, like decline forecasting is one area where we see AI and machine learning could be pretty useful going forward because there's a ton of data there that, computers are better at analyzing than engineers or people. But yeah, the next few years will be interesting, I think.
Thank you so much, Mike. Now, just continue on that conversation with AI. Where do you see, in terms of more innovation and trends happening in the oil and gas tech space, and how is Quorum Software strategic roadmap aligning with these trends? Would love to learn more on that.
Yeah, we're seeing a lot of clients start to do not quite AI type stuff, but trending towards the like rapid scenario generation, sort of Monte Carlo simulations. I mean, Monte Carlo's been around forever, but we're seeing more, especially bigger companies doing like thousands of different scenario runs to see where, those peaks of value and peaks of production are. So we're on our product, we're helping to enable that, like giving them the tools to run thousands of scenarios, sort of automated using using the tools without having to have a person click 1,000 times to generate all these runs and scour manually through reports. The other trend we've seen over the last, I don't know, a few years, I guess, is it's kind of been surprising actually, and maybe COVID kind of sped this up. Is everything companies want everything in the cloud now, like cloud hosted. They want us to host, or they want us to deal with the hosting, whether we host it on our cloud or on like Amazon or Azure cloud, whatever. We've had clients just kind of immediately say no because the solution was like a desktop solution. So the adoption of the cloud has been faster than I expected. Anyway, I'm sure other smarter people saw it coming, but that's one of the big changes we're seeing recently, and that leads to challenges too. I should say because we have a mix of like desktop. We call them on premises installations where you have a desktop application running on a database in your company's data center. IT manages it in-house. So integrating between our cloud products and our desktop products leads to some challenges. So it's almost better to have all of one or all of the other. Everything in the cloud talking to each other is a little bit easier. I mean, that's challenging as well, but yeah.
Thank you for sharing that, Mike. Now let's steer our conversation towards the career angle. Now you've been such a successful product leader in the oil and gas tech space, somebody who's looking to enter as a product manager in the space. What sort of advice would you have in terms of developing certain skill sets and any sort of skill sets that would be helpful to them?
Yeah, good question. I mean, I kind of just grew organically, let's say. I wasn't ever really like targeting a product leadership role, but the one thing I would say is knowing or looking at the problems that people are having day to day and understanding how to solve those or how a piece of software could solve those is really valuable. Talking to a lot of different people and getting a good idea of like the big picture of what's going on is pretty key too. And just being able to talk to a wide variety of folks. Like I talk to everyone from, actual engineers, corporate planners, and in our company, I talk to marketing, solution architects, sales, developers, other product managers, people outside my group, even like product managers for other products, figure out how we can work together. So the being open with your communication is very key. Yeah, and I mean, of course, having experience in whether it's in oil and gas, just knowing your industry is pretty key too, like knowing what people need to accomplish in your industry, and a little bit of, for a software product, a little bit of, knowledge of how software products are made is very helpful. You don't have to be like me. I was never a developer, but I work with some product managers who were developers in their past, and they have a much stronger grasp of certain things, and I can see how that is advantageous. So yeah, it's really it's a blend of a lot of different skills.
Thank you so much for sharing that, Mike. So that concludes the formal portion of our interview for today. So we like to end our podcast with a fun segment called a rapid fire, where our viewers and listeners get to know a little bit more about the personal side of our guests. Now, as part of this rapid fire, I'll be asking you three quick questions. Are you ready?
Okay, let's do it.
Great, great. Well, firstly, as this is a tech podcast, Mike would love to learn what is perhaps a software app or a hardware product that you enjoy using.
Ooh, that's a good one. Okay, this is kind of a funny one and not at all related to my job or industry, but we recently got a robot vacuum, and the app and just watching the robot vacuum do its thing is pretty awesome. Like watching, there's a little map on screen and you can see where it's going and where it gets trapped. It's surprisingly addictive. And yeah, it's just, I don't know, I like it. It's funny. And it's very handy.
That's great, and glad to know that, Mike. Secondly, what's been a book that you've read that has had a big impact on your life and why?
I recently read, and it took way too long for me to get to this book, Inspired by Marty Kagan. He's a Silicon Valley guy. He's written a bunch of books, but that one's a really good, it's a few years old now, but it's a really good overview of product management in general. It's illuminating. If you want to get into product management, like I highly recommend that book. And Empowered is next on my list, his second book, I think. Yeah, Inspired. It's good.
Absolutely great. I totally resonate with that, Mike. And lastly, do you have any final words of wisdom, perhaps a short story, a quote that you'd like to share with members of our audience?
Actually, a quote from Inspired, fall in love with the problem, not the solution. That really resonated with me because often, we see a problem and we start thinking about how to solve it, but really you should be asking questions and working with other people to figure out the best way to solve that problem before. Like in my world, we often go to developers with half a solution rather than discussing the problem with them. So fall in love with the problem. Really, really explore the problem space before you get into the solution space.
Thank you so much, Mike. So that concludes our interview for today. How can our viewers and listeners get in touch with you?
LinkedIn is the best way. Just fire me a message. We can connect and yeah, go from there.
Great, great. Well, thank you so much, Mike, for your presence in our show today. It's been an absolute honor and pleasure hosting you today. And thank you so much for sharing your subject matter expertise. We really appreciate it. From the team at Energize, wishing you and the entire digital product management team at Quorum Software lots of growth and lots of success.
Thanks for having me, Arjun. It was a pleasure.
For sure. So there you have it, ladies and gentlemen, our episode for today. And remember, you're one product away from transformation. I'm Arjun Chaudhary.